But if there is a favorite to finish in the top two, it would be 27-year-old Josh Davis, triple gold medalist from the 96 Olympics. Most golds, Rowdy, by any American man at those games.
You know, I have seen Josh Davis take a lot of races out very fast, but I've never seen Josh take it out that fast.
And he's still ahead of world record pace at the halfway mark. Davis looks like he's going to win it, and Davis sets an American record. He breaks a 12-year-old mark. What a swim for Davis.
Welcome to the Ultimate Swimmer Podcast. I'm your host, three-time Olympic gold medalist and captain of the 2000 USA team, Josh Davis. Here at Ultimate Swimmer, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you to be the very best version of you, physically, mentally, and spiritually, on your swimming journey. This podcast is geared primarily for those of us in the aquatic disciplines of age group swimming, college swimming, para swimming, open water swimming, and master swimming. But we welcome all who are interested in peak performance, pursuing excellence, and swimming with purpose. So whether you are just starting out in the pool or you've been swimming your entire life, you were born for the water, and you were also born for greatness. So each week we will explore the 7 core habits of achieving greatness that will help take you to the next level in your journey to becoming an ultimate swimmer. This episode is brought to you by Breakout Swim Clinics, the longest-running swim clinic tour of swimming Olympians in U.S. history. Breakout Swim Clinics has been providing swim clubs with the biggest Olympic names for the best prices with gold medal service since 1997. Go to breakoutswimclinic.com and bring some of their great Olympians to your team to help your swimmers break out. Bigger names, better prices, gold medal service. Break out with the best. breakoutswimclinic.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Ultimate Swimmer podcast show. I'm your host, Josh Davis, and I am so excited for this week's guest. He was actually my original swimming hero, the first Olympic swimmer that I looked up to and wanted to be like. He's 11-time Olympic medalist, over 3 Olympic Games, American record holder in the 50, 100, 200 free, and won those both years in college, his junior, senior in college, one of the only guys to ever do that. Captain of his respective college and USA teams, a member of multiple Hall of Fames, the International Swimming Hall of Fame, the Olympic Hall of Fame. He's the original Cali Condor, and now leading the Alliance of Professional Swimmers, a true ultimate swimmer. Welcome to the show, Matt Biondi. Thanks, Matt, for being on the show.
I should have trademarked that California Condor years ago.
I know. Jason Lezak owes you some royalties for giving a cool
It just
name.
happens to be the ugliest bird in the animal kingdom. I wonder if that's a coincidence.
It's the wingspan, baby.
That's it.
Now, was that kind of in response to Michael Gross, the albatross, your big rival in the 80s?
Yeah, that was it. They had nicknamed him the Albatross, and he was probably the most dominant male swimmer in '84 in the LA Olympics. Yeah. And certainly I looked up to him in the World Championships 2 years later in Madrid. And so I was starting to rival him in the 200 free, and so they had to come up with a name for me, and that's what they came up with.
Yeah, the Cali Condors. Well, it's a good name. You won with that name, and now we've got an ISL championship team name with the same name, so it's kind of cool. So well done. And I'll talk to you about ISL a little bit later because I know you just got back from Budapest. We're recording this end of November, beginning of December season, and a lot of the gang just got back from Budapest in the ISL bubble, and the Cali Condors won, and Matt was there, and you'll tell us later what all went down there and your role in that. But I'd like to just go back briefly to just kind of a synopsis of your childhood, growing up in Northern California, your first experiences with water and swimming and stuff your coaches and parents did well that kind of set you on a good trajectory. So if you could kind of just give us a little highlights of your childhood leading into high school and college.
Sure. Well, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in a little town called Moraga. And I think my parents did a great service to me by setting a few ground rules and expecting me to follow them, but also giving me enough autonomy and control over my schedule that it made me feel like I was doing it for myself and not because I had to or to please my parents. That's a big one. So I remember I wanted to quit piano lessons. And my mom said, no, we paid for 3 months. I want you to finish the 3 months. And and then I was free to move on to do other things. My sister actually got started swimming with her friend Paula at a little country club called Moraga Valley Pool. And she, ironically, never liked to compete. Even today, board games, she gets frustrated and doesn't like winning and losing. So her swimming career ended about the same time it started. But I was already going up to the pool in the carpool with my mom. And so I started swimming at the age of 5 and only swam 3 months a year until 15. So one thing that I really advocate for young people up until maybe high school is to have diversity. Like I mentioned, I did the piano. I also played the drums. I was in a choir. I was in a musical. We would go downhill skiing, cross-country skiing. I played all different sports, soccer. I was really bad at soccer, but I enjoyed it. So that broad base gave me the feeling that there was something special about swimming. So I encourage all young people to do that.
That's great advice. And I love how your parents diversified it, but didn't live vicariously through you. So I think that's kind of a healthy thing to remember. So you get involved in the middle of high school with swimming. Was there any signs of the great Olympian to come when you were in high school?
I think I was just persistent. If there was any indication that things would turn out to be on an international scale, it was that I just kept improving every year. Very slow, very methodical. And, the improvements eventually led to a world record. I ended up playing water polo in high school and then actually competed in college quite successfully and even played with the U.S. national team for a little bit.
Was having the ability to do both water polo and swimming one of the big factors you went to Berkeley?
Yeah, it's funny. Berkeley was the last place I wanted to go because it was only about 20 miles from Moraga, my hometown where I grew up. And UCLA really wanted me for swimming. Ron Balatori was the coach then. And but Bob Horn, the water polo coach, didn't think I was going to be any good. So I knew I wanted to do 2 sports. So UCLA was out. I really liked UCLA. The swimming program was pretty exciting down there. And our coach at Stanford, Skip Kenny, actually told me to my face that he wasn't going to be recruiting me and I didn't have what it took to swim at that level.
Oh, no.
So I ended up going with Nort and with Pete at Berkeley.
That's fascinating. Stanford and UCLA didn't work out, but Berkeley and Nort and Pete was an incredible combination. And you made history there. And having a nice progressive improvement in the swimming. Obviously, freshman year was kind of a normal freshman year, but then sophomore, junior, senior year, you nailed it, winning the 50 and 100 your sophomore year, all 3 your junior and senior year, 50, 100, and 200. And to me, that's fascinating because you were one of the only guys in history to do that, and you don't see that really now. You don't see a lot of the big sprinter guys taking on all 3. And, like Caleb Dressel does the 50, 100, 100 fly, which is cool. But I think it's kind of neat to do the 50, 100, and 200 and to win your junior year, repeat, and break the American record in all 3 your senior year was incredible. Where'd you get the guts to do the 200 and to take on all 3?
I was skinny and shy as a kid. And, to be a drop dead sprinter, you have to have a lot of strength, a lot of upper body strength. And, if I did write a book, it would probably be called Pain and Pleasure, because the pleasure that I got from swimming, I can always tie back to moments of pain, of discomfort, feeling awkward. And so in high school, I was teased a lot for being shy and skinny. And, it's not so much what happens to you, but how you react to it. And I reacted to that social criticism by getting wet, by going into the pool where my teammates and my coach respected me for what I was able to do. So when I got to Cal, my body started changing. I developed a little bit late. I was still growing into my early 20s. And of course, putting on weight up in my shoulders and lats and so forth like that. And so, it was just having a strong kick and not being particularly strong in the upper body, I had to, find an event that worked well for me. And so that's really where the 200 came in. And then my strength increased. That's when my 150 got even faster. I used to actually swim the 2 and the 5 in high school. 4:44, my best time.
That's a good time. Yeah, I bet you would have thrown down a good one at your prime.
That was it. 44, as good as it got.
Oh, that's so funny. I heard a rumor your sophomore year, you were the first guy to split 40.9 on a relay. And I heard there was some guy going on another college going 42, and you ran him down going 40.9. And when I first heard this rumor, I was like, oh, how depressing. A guy goes 42 and he gets run down by you going 40.9. Because, back in the 80s, that was just alien, mind-blowing to go 40.9. I mean, now Caleb, makes it look easy. But was that true? Can you verify that? Do you remember being the first guy to go 40.9?
It's possible. Well, I swam 41.8. So with the roll and start, a little extra energy to pull your team out from behind. I would say that's it's got a 95% chance of being true.
Yeah, it's hard to get all the splits of NC2As from the 80s. It's not like they're on Google somewhere. So.
Yeah, it's on VHS is what it's on.
That's right. We have to time it off a VHS player somewhere. Well, speaking of VHS players, in 1987, your senior year in March, Austin, I taped that on my VHS player. I taped that meet, and I watched that meet on my VCR every day before I went to practice. And I'd watch your 50 or your 100 or your 200 every day before I went to practice for years. VHS tape disintegrated because I watched it so much. And so I have all of your strokes and races from that meet memorized. And, 19.1, 41.8, and 133.0 at the time was just, oh my gosh. And you made it look easy. So I want to, talk quickly about 84 Olympics real quick. What you learned you were third on the relay going into Rowdy's anchor leg. What was your mindset? What is something you learned from LA?
It kind of goes back to the trials in Indianapolis. My coach Nort at Cal, it was right after my freshman year, and he said, you should go to the Olympic trials in Indianapolis. And I really looked at him like, why? Hard to watch the swim meet. And he goes, no, you're going to swim. And I said, well, why? Okay. He said, well, go and you'll get valuable experience because at 88 will probably be your best shot at making the Olympic team. And so you go. And I remember in Indy, I was looking around at the swimmers, just taking a pause to notice their facial expressions, their skin tone, and you could just see the tension, a whole lifetime of training, and they've got a minute or 40 seconds or whatever it is to make that team, to get first or second. And if not, then you're a quote unquote failure. So it was really a treat for me to be able to go to the 84 trials and just not feel like I had to make the team. Like I could just go a free swim bag and a pair of sweats, and I was happy with that. So morning swim, I made it into the finals in lane 7, and I was pretty happy with my time. I dropped like 2.5 seconds or something, and we made the finals. But I still started to get a little nervous, but not so much because, again, my Olympics wasn't going to be for another 4 years. Well, Robin Leamy was in lane 6, and Robin Leamy at that time was the fastest man in the world. The 50 was not recognized as a world record in 84. It was a world best. So he was in lane 6, and for the first 50 going out, he was obviously very fast at the wall, and I could not see the rest of the field because he was ahead of me. And then as we got with about 25 meters to go, I started to catch him, and I passed him. And when I looked across the pool, I could see to lane 1. I was in first place or near in first place. And what was interesting about that is my whole brain shut my body down. It was because I did not see myself winning that race. I was not ready mentally to be a champion. and I fell back, but I finished fourth, and that was good enough for the relay spot in 84. I got to watch the great ones, Rowdy Gaines and Tracy Calkins, Steve Lundquist, how they handled the pressure of the media, how they trained, how they gave time to kids and autographs. And it was a great experience to be able to just be a fly on the wall. The quote in the Moraga Sun, my local paper, was Matt Who, because they asked Rowdy at the press conference, so what do you think your chances are for the relay at the trials? And he says, on all the excitement, I don't know who else is on the relay. So they read off the names, Mike Heath, Chris Kavanaugh, and Matt Biondi. And that's what Rowdy said, Matt who? Who's this guy?
I love it. Well, I watched the 84 Olympics, and that really got me excited to start swimming. I was 12 years old at the time, and that's when I got into it that summer and started getting pretty good. And when I was 15 years old, I don't know how my mom did it. She got me and my best friend, Murray Easton. Murray looked a lot like you, and he swam like you. And so I was always jealous of my best friend, Murray. I was the one who really liked you and really wanted to swim like you, and was, but my best friend, he was the one who had your looks and your stroke and your size. And I was like, golly day. But anyway, he and I got to go to Olympic trials in Austin, Texas. And I don't know how my mom did it. We were front row, middle of the pool, and in Austin, Texas. And I watched you in the 100 free go 48.4. That beautiful swim. What was it? What did that race? What was your memories of that race? What do you think went well to allow that 48.4 in the bikini, to be possible?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit. All I heard was a bikini.
Yeah. What do you think made the 48.4 possible? Even though you're in a bikini and it was back in the 80s, I mean, it's a really good time, even by today's standards.
I think it was a combination of comfort at the meet. I had already made the Olympic team in the 200 free and surprisingly in the 100 fly. So then the 100 free was always my event. I mentioned the other competitors who I thought could beat me. You notice I didn't mention anybody in the 100 free because it was just I was perfectly suited for that distance. And my confidence level was just so high at that point of the meet. I remember walking into the ready room, and it was the only time this ever happened to me. But when the other swimmers looked up and saw me, I swear they were thinking, okay, Matt's here. Now we're racing for second. And when I came out onto the pool deck, I could hear individual voices in the crowd. Go Tom, go Chris, go Matt, go Bears, go Cardinal, whatever. So it was just for being on that stage and having everything be so important. I was extremely calm and just in total control of all aspects of the pool deck as well as in the water. I had a really easy 50 going out. I remember flipping and seeing the other swimmers were just starting to go into their turn. And so psychologically, that's you just know you have the race at that point. It's over. And you're living your dream. Your dream are literally coming true every second as the day passes. And so at that point, I just surged with energy. I remember a couple of the coaches came up to me afterwards and they said, I've never seen anybody come out of the water so high. And it was just a surge of adrenaline and excitement that my dreams were all coming true.
Yeah. I remember sensing that, watching you come off for that second 50, that something special was about to happen. And so that's exactly how I perceived it from watching it, that you just had this perfect, confident peace and execution. And I will like to say that the few days before when I watched the 200 free, that just blew my mind when you went 147.7. And that's the number I chased for the next 12 years. till my Olympic trials in 2000 in Indy, when I was able to sneak past that record. But so I just want to say thank you for inspiring me and so many others with your freestyle swims. And so you go to 88, and Seoul is intense because you're so busy, and there's all this pressure and all this expectation. And you know, I remember I heard you give a speech about Seoul that you know, as incredible as it wasn't like your most ultimate experience because you were so busy and trying to manage different things. Maybe you can recap your experience of Seoul, Korea.
Well, Mark Spitz, I think it starts with him in winning 7 gold medals and 7 world records in 1 Olympics. And when I qualified for 4 individuals and 3 relays, that was the story that the media lopped onto. I think there were probably over 1,000 individual members of the international press that came to Seoul, and they all wanted to Spitz. Am I going to win 7 gold medals? Why not? If not, why not? And the funny thing is the Spanish paper the next day says, Biondi says 7 gold. And I'm like, well, you know, you had the article already written before I even opened my mouth. Why bother? Yeah. So that was for me, the attention and the expectations from the media. You know, my first swim in Seoul was a good swim, and I won my first individual Olympic medal. I got 3rd. Some people took pictures of it. And it was this really exciting, uplifting moment in the Olympic Village. And then there was NBC's coverage was over, like playing on the television in the corner. And I finished 3rd still. And Bob Costas says, Matt Biondi has failed to eclipse Mark Spitz's record of 7 gold medals, had to settle for the bronze, and we'll be back after these messages. And so the energy in the room was just like way up here, and then bam, everybody looked at me like, wow, he just called you a failure. And it is a good dichotomy, like a good comparison to the actual feeling that we had in that room and how proud I was of an Olympic medal, and then how other people can see that from the outside and, of course, can judge you on the outside. So I think it's really important for young people to remember that you be true to yourself and be honest, and you don't always have to worry about what other people are saying. And nowadays, I mean, I was a school teacher for 17 years. I've seen the effect of the smartphones on young kids' lifestyles and their ability to communicate to each other and their ability to tease each other. And so it's a really important message in our day when we were young, as well as today, which is, you know, you can't please everybody all the time. And you got to stay the course. You do the best you can each and every day. And if that's not good enough for some people, then that's their option.
Yeah, no, it's a good lesson to be reminded of. But I wish I had a bronze medal because I got 4th in the 200 free at my 2000 Olympics. I was 7th in 96, 4th in 2000. So I would give anything to have a bronze. So I'm proud of you. And but then you got a silver in the 100 fly, and then 5 golds, 50 in the 100, and then the 3 relays. So it was a wonderful Olympics, the most decorated by far at those Olympics. And you went on to race in 92 and got a total of 11 Olympic medals, one of the great Olympic careers of all time.
I wanted to take a moment from this fascinating interview to let you know about a new partner for the Ultimate Swimmer podcast, and that is SwimShare. SwimShare is a free workout writing tool. Just Google SwimShare, all one word, SwimShare. And you can put in today's workout in just a few clicks, and it sends and stores all your workouts within seconds. The first workout you'll see on there is one of my favorites from yours truly. Check out SwimShare and take your workouts to the next level. Send, store, and share your swimming masterpieces with SwimShare.
When you got back, you started writing for Swimming World magazine. And I remember I pored over those articles every month when they came out. And I was so grateful you took the time to write about your thoughts and your journey. And I loved how you always emphasized the importance of technique and having that as the foundation, enjoying the journey, you know, and then just, I think you talked about the importance of preserving oceans too, and, you know, clean water, and just
I mean, so many great ideas that you just didn't hear about very much from some of our big stars. And I'm glad Swimming World gave you that forum to share your thoughts. What do you remember about the process of writing those articles and putting yourself out there like that?
I think the first couple sort of wrote themselves. Like you have a lot of ideas already formulated and you want to get them down. So the first couple articles came easily. And then it was hard to sit down and you had to produce something, right? You've got a deadline. You want to be meaningful. You want to be helpful to other people, but you don't know what you're going to say. So a little bit of writer's block. And, of course, like anything, I write better when I take the time to break in between, come back and read it. Those articles were encouraged by Albert Stevens, who had developed the Coach Scope, the underwater subsurface video system. And he had also encouraged me to do something outside of swimming. In fact, how appropriate. This is from my friend Albert. And he sent this to me in Seoul. And as you can see, it's a wood-carved dolphin. And I said, Albert, how did you do this? And he says, it's really easy. You just start with a block and you erase everything that's not a dolphin.
Easy.
Easily said than done. So along with these articles, Albert encouraged me to swim with free dolphins in the ocean and eventually with whales. And so when I would go to speak to youth groups, I could talk about my competitive swimming. But then I also had the issue of the environment and, like you mentioned, the state of the oceans, the pollution in the oceans, the fishing nets that the whales and dolphins often get snagged up in. And then a new sort of controversial subject would be the sound, the way that the military and fishing vessels use sound in the water that can affect the whales and dolphins' ability to communicate and to locate and navigate and so forth. So, and along with the sports, I also had what I thought was a equally compelling component in the environment.
Yeah. Well, I love those articles, and some of the things that stuck with me is about, enjoying the process, feel your body working with the water, not against the water. And, you're reading about you swimming with dolphins. That was something I've never had a chance to do that, but, I thought that always stuck with me. Dolphins became one of my favorite aquatic animals. And, I always, paid attention to how my hand grabbed the water, how my body slid through the water. And, so all those things stuck with me over the years and really made a big difference. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, I'm glad that at least one person read those articles. There's one, you.
Yeah, I read them.
All right.
So in January of 1990, I made the first USA junior team. The first time Denny Persley had a group of about 30 guys, 30 girls. The top high schoolers come to Colorado Springs and get poked and tested and prodded in Colorado. And then a few months later was kind of our, first showing. We took the USA junior team to Paris, France. And then a week later, we went to East Berlin, Germany, because there were 2 World Cup stops. And so we got to do the Paris World Cup and the East Berlin World Cup. And you and Tom were there. You happened to be passing through the same time the junior team was. And so I think you guys spoke to us briefly at the Paris hotel, and then you raced with us. And then we saw you in a few days later in East Berlin, Germany. And it was this huge pool in East Berlin, and it looked like a dungeon. It just seemed this massive pool, but it just seemed very dark and green and gray. And I remember the ladies in the men's locker room, the lady janitors in the men's locker room with hairy armpits just coming and going as they please while we're in the men's locker room.
It's a little different.
It's very different over there.
Yeah, that's the benefit of traveling, is you get to see a different way of doing things.
Oh, yeah. And I remember warming up in the East Berlin pool before one of the sessions, the 2-day sessions for World Cup back then. And I purposely got in your lane and I was swimming behind you. And I was trying to do stroke for stroke with you so I could mimic your long, smooth strokes. And I did it. I was taking one stroke for every one of your strokes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm swimming the same way Matt Biondi is. Maybe I can go fast too.
Silly boy.
I know.
Silly boy.
I was like, this is so cool. But anyway, so that was my little fan stalker moment. But do you remember that Paris-East Berlin stop?
No, I don't actually. I do remember that Tom and I got in an accident, a car accident. Our little driver had gone the wrong way in a one-way street, and we had a head-on collision. So I don't remember swimming in the pool, but I remember getting in an auto accident on the way to the meet.
Oh, wow. Well, we had a great time at Paris because they took all of us to eat dinner in the Eiffel Tower, and we had a pretty cool hotel, and we walked to the pool every day and raced at the pool. And I didn't do very well at those meets. But in fact, after East Berlin, I think 90% of the team got sick from the food in East Berlin. It was just not good. But that was just a few months after the wall came down. So we actually got pieces of the old Berlin Wall because it was just a few months earlier that the wall came down. So it's kind of cool to see that history. And you're right. And you're right. Traveling really opens up your eyes to a lot of cool things and broadens your horizons. So a few months later, you guys are in March of 90, you and Tom passed through Nashville, Tennessee for the big dash for cash.
I remember that one.
And I think they jutted up right next to senior nationals because we used to have senior nationals in the spring around March. And you guys thought, let's do the dash for cash right against that. And you guys, that shootout, that dash for cash had, I don't know, like 5 or 6 of the top sprinters in the country. And of course, it worked out perfectly. Everybody got eliminated except you and Tom. And it came down that final race. And you guys both, with your bikinis and 2-footed starts, go 21.8. Like, that's crazy fast.
I think, that's one of the rare times that I broke the world record and got beat. Now that's that's a competitor for you.
Yeah, Tom was tough because you were kind of ahead most of the way, and then he was able to kind of keep his arms spinning the last 15. And
I think he got me on the finish. Yeah, that was a very historic meet for a lot of reasons. Tom and I had a great rivalry, and we started going to Europe for appearance money and prize money, and that had never happened before in swimming. When you think of the American greats in the 70s and 80s, they had financial opportunities, but it was as a retired swimmer, Spitz and Neighbor and the likes. They were giving speeches and doing ads and things, but not while they were still racing. And Tom and I saw what was going on in track and field, in tennis. Steffi Graf was in the 88 Olympics as a professional tennis player. So that dash for cash in Nashville was the first time we were able to bring that concept to the States. We had been doing it in Europe mostly to get it up and going. And ABC's Wide World of Sports covered it. It showed on United Airlines for a month as part of their sports package up on the video screen. And it also is an indicator of the way the sport was changing, and a lot of people feeling not changing for the better. A lot of the old guard at USA Swimming felt as though swimmers should be amateur, flat up. You race for your country, for the love of the sport, to bring pride back to your community, a pair of sweats, a swim bag, and a bottle of shampoo, and that's it. Otherwise, you're corrupting the sport. And so USA Swimming threatened to sanction the dash for cash because it was an unsanctioned event. We could lose our Olympic eligibility. So it was so silly. There were 5,000 people or 6,000 people in that auditorium. And in order to do the dash for cash, we had to qualify as 2 separate events. So 6,000 people get out of their seats and exit the building. Everybody's out in the hallway. The doors are closed. Okay, it's a new event. The doors open and everybody goes back in, sits right back down there and starts, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Oh
and
my gosh.
4 point something Nielsen rating at that time. It was just behind NCAA basketball, the March Madness.
Wow.
So I mean, that's putting swimming on the map. And
Finally, 30 years later, that the ISL and some real professional swimming events and prize money is finally happening. So, but I just want to thank you for breaking the ice, you and Tom and Janet breaking the ice all those years ago, because I know it was hard, and there wasn't a lot of love and support from USA Swimming at the time.
I think in the cumulative, we did the sport right. We did well. It's not to say we didn't make some mistakes. I wish I had a better relationship with USA Swimming at that time. I mean, a lot of it was combative in the media, and I don't think anybody really wins that way. So looking back on my youth, I wish for that to have been a little different. But in the long run, I think we really brought the sport forward and gave a lot of young people some exciting opportunities. And if you think about it, I mean, to be top 10 in the world at anything is incredible. I mean, how many people there are on this planet, and you are one of 10 who can do this the best. You deserve to get paid for it. It's if you want to make a living, you should be able to. That seems reasonable.
No, it is possible to swim for the love of your community and country and make money doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's only
they're not
right,
mutually exclusive.
Right. It's only right and fair and good that the best our country has the opportunity, to provide for themselves and their families and continue to racing for their country. So it makes perfect sense. And
well, I think anytime you innovate, there always is an element of disruption, of changing the system. And another example, I was one of the first swimmers to sign with Arena and to get paid to wear their suit and goggles when I would race. And that had never been done before. If you think about it, the money from Speedo or from Arena and Tier would go to the clubs, would go to the coaches, and then the coaches, their discretion to distribute as they see fit. So for an athlete to have the company pay him directly or her was never happened before. And a lot of people felt that was wrong, that it should go to the club to support all levels of swimming.
Oh, wow. That's cool. No, you're the first American swimsuit guy to get sponsored. I love that. And then, I was with Speedo for 10 years. They supported me and my career and ultimately my family for 10 years. And I'm so grateful for that. We got to win a lot of medals and do a lot of good for USA thanks to that.
Yeah.
So I love where the sport's going now. And we'll close with some ISL stories in a minute. But in 92, you persevered and trained for a third Olympics, despite the tension with USA Swimming and the pressures of traveling and speaking and balancing that with racing. You made it to 92 Olympic trials. I was there with you. I was just 19 years old. And I remember I was like you at your first Olympics. I was looking around, watching everybody. And I remember going in the locker room at Indianapolis, and you see most of the people crying in the locker rooms. And like you said, you could see the fear on people's faces, and you can catch the tension with a knife in the air there. And it was like a dream to disappointment ratio of like 1 to 100. For every 100 swimmers, you got one that's happy and 100 that are miserable.
Yeah.
and I remember watching that. And of course, I was freaked out. I choked. I got like 10th in the 100 free and 200 free. Just missed out on the top 8. So I was watching you guys race in the top 8. And I remember thinking, I'm going to come back in 4 years, and I'm not going to let this pressure get to me. I'm going to just do my thing and enjoy it. Swim free, like you were in 84. Just swim free. And thankfully, it worked out in 96 for me. But what was 92 like for you? Kind of hanging on.
That's a good way to describe it. It really was difficult. I played water polo in 89. And I came back to swimming in 1990 with some of the financial opportunities that I mentioned with Tom Jigger and the Dash for Cash and our racing over in Europe. My college coach, Nort, who did tremendous things for me as a student, was afraid to coach me as a post-grad. And again, this is how swimming has changed dramatically, because now you wouldn't think of any problem with a professional swimmer training with a high school, or not high school, but a college program. At that time, USA Swimming didn't have a national team or a senior group to be able to get together. So I literally, for 2 years, hired my own coach and trained by myself. And it was it was really hard.
Wow.
So many times at Berkeley, you're tired, you're hungry, you got a paper due the next day, and you're just kind of feeling melancholy. And you go to practice because you have to. And then before you know it, you're in a great set with 2 other guys and you're beating each other up, and you end up with just a tremendous training day. And so that's the benefit of the team. And so when I would go to the pool and, just nobody was there but my coach, it was really hard to get up. And on the days that I was feeling good, okay, that worked out well. But on the days that I was not feeling good, there was no one there to pick me up. And I tended to sort of have a wasted day training in that case. So
wow.
Those last couple of years were tough, but bittersweet, because so many I don't say famous athletes, but athletes that have a high notoriety because of their success have a really hard time transitioning into life after sports. Mm-hmm. And for me, my last couple of years were so uncomfortable that I just closed the door on my career and moved forward, and was happy to do so. I just left it all behind.
I want to take a quick break from this super fun interview to tell you about an awesome new resistance tool I found at gmx7training.com. Swimming with the GMX7 training resistance system allows me and my swimmers to not just go 25s, but 50s and beyond. GMX7 training allows you to get strength gains faster, engage the core more, feel the catch of the water better, and get more work done in less time. gmx7training.com. Don't just get strong, get swimming strong. Check it out at gmx7training.com. I remember you telling a story about how 92, there was a moment that was extremely satisfying for you where you got to encourage Summer Sanders during one of her moments when she needed that at Barcelona. And you mentioned how the progress of an athlete or an elite athlete, or the progress of a master is, and you likened it to your arch in your 3 Olympics. You're learning in 84, you do some great things in 88, but in 92, you're a captain, and now you're able to give back and help others. And I think that was the gist of what you were saying in your talk, if you remember what I'm talking about. And I love that. That stuck with me. But that when you really reach a mastery level, it's not about your success. It's also about how you can help others achieve their dreams and help them find their success. And you got to encourage Summer Sanders at an important juncture in her week at Barcelona. So maybe you can expand on that lesson you learned and how you helped Summer.
A good analogy for that is in the martial arts, the highest degree is the black belt. But in order to be a true master, you need to train someone else to be a black belt. And then you move up to the next level. And I was really looking for goals to keep me motivated. And one of the goals that I locked onto was to make the experience of my teammates a little bit easier, less tension, maybe a little more fun. So I would try to start up conversations on the bus or sit next to somebody at lunch or dinner and just check in with them and see how if I could be of help. So I saw the look on Summer's face when she kept coming up short. She, silver medals. I think in the 100 fly, she got 6th, which was not necessarily her best event. And it's crazy to see a swimmer with a silver medal around her neck crying, because the American press just kept hounding her for, don't you want to win bad enough? And don't you want to support all those young girls back in the United States? I mean, what's wrong with you for getting second all the time? And so I don't even remember what I said, just some encouraging words. I'm proud of you. There's a lot of people that look up to you. And it's unfortunate what the media is saying about you, because you're a tremendous swimmer. I don't even think she looked up. She just kept crying. And I had theoretically made no difference whatsoever, but at least I had tried. Yeah. So the last day was the 200 fly, I believe. And that was when she won. She led from beginning to end. And we were all waiting for her, because after the medals, as you know, you do the media, and then you have to go to drug testing, and you warm down and all that. So, we were waiting for a considerable amount of time, and Summer finally came into the room, and everybody was cheering. I was so happy for her that she had finally broke through, and she just sort of meandered through like in a daze, and she saw me, and she came over and she gave me a big hug, and she whispered in my ear, "I never could have done it without you." And so at that moment, that sort of encapsulated my Olympic career, and I was ready to retire.
I love that story. I think that's beautiful, and that's what the Ultimate Swimmer podcast is about. It's the three H's. An ultimate swimmer works hard, has fun, and helps others. And so that's what we want for all the next generation of swimmers. Learn how to work hard and be tough and persevere. Learn how to make it fun, enjoy the process, become one with the water like you did, and then also help others. And what a tremendous opportunity you had to help Summer, and you've helped me, and you've helped a lot of others. I want to transition real quick to the final segment. You talk about Hawaii, how you end up teaching math, why math instead of maybe something like history, how you met Kirsten, and why you moved back to Southern California instead of Northern California.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned a little bit, the last few years of my swimming career were quite a challenge. And so I was eager to move on and to do something new. I really enjoyed the time I spent with children when I would talk to them about swimming and the Olympics. And my brother was a Spanish teacher at that time. And he was a principal in the summer school. And so I was sort of living vicariously through him as an educator. In 2000, I got a master's in teaching, and my degree was actually in history. And I went out to Parker School on the Big Island of Hawaii for a teaching position that had already been filled. And the headmaster was a big swimming fan, and he just had me come out because he wanted to meet me. So office, and he says, "Well, I've already given the history job away, but how about math?" So for the first year and a half, I was just a couple of pages ahead of my students.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I would teach the next day. And then, Kirsten and I raised the kids on the Big Island. And then we split up in 2012. And so that's when I came out to Los Angeles for another teaching job that had the potential for a much stronger and well-supported swimming program.
Right,
so that
right.
was a nice, private school. The kids got a great education there. Teaching really was satisfying. And, at the private school, you don't get paid all that well, but the psychic pay is great. I got to go to school with my kids, ride in the, carpool, and come into my classroom after school. "Oh, Dad, I'm going to be out in the soccer field. Come get me when, ready to go home." And so, a lot of men in particular, but not exclusive, work so hard for their families that they never get to enjoy their family. And I really enjoy being a dad. I liked playing with my kids. I liked the idea of, having them explore the world and keeping them safe while they did it. That was a very satisfying thing. And the Big Island was a great place to be young. We could let the kids roam around. We put Lucas with his friend Zane on public transportation at 8 years old.
Yeah.
And not a worry in the world. And when he got to town, there were 10 families that knew him and would look after him. It was really great.
That's cool. So you just got back from Budapest in the ISL. You would have been perfect for the ISL. As good as you were yard, short course, and as good as you were long course, you would have loved short course meters and all the different events you could have done. So I'm sorry you missed the ISL, but give us your thoughts on the second season. What went well, what can be better, and what to look forward to in the future.
Well, the first thing is that the medical staff and the preparations for the second season of ISL were up to the challenge. And that was the largest concern for the athletes, obviously, and for coaches, with next year being the Olympic year, was to keep everybody healthy. And so they did a really great job. We were was tested twice before I left, tested again when I got there, and then everybody was tested every 5 days. So a few people came to the bubble with the virus, but nobody contracted it once we got inside. So that was a big success. I think the success of ISL stems from the team concept. I see these swimmers fighting for 6th over 7th, 7th over 8th for team points.
Yeah.
And that's, we kind of talked about, having things go full circle. Well, the athletes really get up for these ISL meets because they want to show their teammates that they're excited to be a part of this team and they're grateful for the opportunity. And so everybody just keeps trying to improve on their performance, and then all the teams get in and they start improving on their performances, and you end up with just a really dynamic meet. ISL is done so much for swimming that you go back to these swimming meets, and boy, the ISL swimmers are like, wow, I swam twice in 12 hours, right? And ISL, you swam 12 times in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just rapid fire, boom, 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 exciting to watch. So that part, the construction of it is beautiful. And the skins race at the end seems to be really popular. I like that now mix it up with different strokes based on the medley relay from the day before. So, Konstantin has taken the basic concept of swimming and has adapted it to not only fit a media model, but to fit a better lifestyle for the swimmers.
And we talked about before the show how it was a productive month for guys like Caleb Dressel. I think his total was almost 300 grand or something like that.
Wow.
So
with the MVP, I'm not surprised.
So yeah. It's a pretty good month at the office for him and a lot of them.
He earned it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you're the perfect guy to lead the Alliance of Professional Swimmers and help kind of catch everybody up on the history of pro swimming and how you kind of started it. And now 30 years later, we're finally getting some traction. And I don't know what it's going to look like for Tokyo or our relationship, the pro swimmers' relationship with FINA. And but I feel like the ISL is on the right track to make the sport better and for swimmers and more exciting for fans. And I'm glad you're there to help equip the pro swimmers to get a grasp of how we can have better representation and better execution of our pro lifestyle. And so thank you for your service in that.
Yeah, the one thing I find so interesting is that there in business and in other sports, there is a relationship between the athletes and the event organizers, or there's a relationship between the owners of manufacturing and the workers. And this is a perfectly normal and legitimate relationship between these two parts that make the whole. Yeah. And so for the last year and a half, I've been trying to recruit swimmers with the idea of a players association, a swimmers association, to be able to get them together as a group so that their one voice speaks louder than a bunch of individual voices. As a separated, isolated, there's very little chance of change. But as a large group, we have 118 members now from 31 different countries. So we've grown considerably in the last year or so. And our goal is really to make the sport better, to give swimmers the opportunities they deserve, but also to open up this dialogue with federations and event organizers and sponsors so that it could be mutually beneficial for both parties. And that's been the hardest part of my job this last year and a half, because people think union controversy, boycott. That's where they all go. Right. And it's not the case. And, you look at the rest of the world, it doesn't always end up in a boycott. No. It can end up in mutually agreeable terms. And so that's a big part of my education piece, is this is something that's going to uplift the swimmers, uplift the events, uplift our sport, and not something that's going to try to tear it down.
Yeah. Back in 2018, 2 years ago, I started doing research on Professional Swimmers Association, and I learned that there's basically all the sports have their own professional associations. Obviously, we're familiar with them, NFL, MLB, golf, tennis, all of them have, that relationship that you're talking about. And even golf caddies have their own association with representation.
Yeah.
And a voice. And I thought, we're the only major sport in the world that doesn't have this kind of, unity and association and communication with event holders and governing bodies. We're the only one. And we are the most watched of the Olympic Games.
Yeah. Well, we do now. We do
now, right.
We had our first members meeting in Budapest.
Yeah.
So I think there were over 100 people in the room, which was great. And we talked about the next step of the alliance. We're in the process now of selecting 6 swimmers to the board of directors out of the 10-member board. So a majority of the voice will come from the swimmers. It really is an organization for the athletes. And so things are moving forward. Budapest was a great shot in the arm, got everybody together. It made my job easier because I was able to communicate with them, see them in the lobby or over a meal or something like that. So we made a lot of progress here in the last month.
That's great. Okay, last thing is a little lightning round of quick questions. I'm going to fire off a question and you just fire back and just get to know you a little bit better. All right, favorite color?
Green.
Favorite food, dessert, restaurant, favorite food thing?
Cheesecake.
Ooh, nice. Favorite event, swim event?
Dash for Cash.
Favorite pool you've ever raced in?
Ooh, favorite pool that I raced in.
Any special memories or special pools that you really like?
All sort of angles. Classic pools in Europe. Actually, there's a pool in Berkeley that's made out of black marble. It was built in the 1920s, and we would only train there when our speaker complex was broken. But it's like a Hearst Castle kind of pool. That I don't know that I ever raced there, but it was really neat.
That's cool. Favorite city you've ever visited as a racer or as a tourist?
Melbourne, Australia.
Ah, interesting. Do you have a favorite drill that you like to do when you were swimming? Do you have kind of a go-to drill that you used in warm-up or in practice?
Yeah, I think the kicking on the side, 12 kicks, then go to 10 kicks.
Yeah. I came across a team that does that, and they call it the Biondi drill. So that's pretty cool. Favorite dry land movement or weight room movement or anything you did dry land wise that you liked?
I like the surgical tubing with the paddles.
Yeah.
Just hook them up to the backstroke flags and whale away.
The question is favorite set. And I remember a set you mentioned one time, or someone mentioned a 50 kick or a 50 medium and then a 50 fast, just to kind of mimic coming home on that 100. But do you have a favorite set?
We used to do 10 100s on 4 minutes every Wednesday afternoon. And it was, we start with 10 and then we come down to 9 and then 8. So it'd take 10 weeks to get through to the end. And all of the times were recorded. And so you put up a graph. And what you tried to do was to have a faster cumulative average for your hundreds as the number of hundreds went down. So, your first and second, or at the end, just doing 2, you hope would be faster than the average of all 10. But I I worried about that set all week. And on Wednesdays, I would wake up like, oh man, it's going to hurt. And then of course, Wednesday evening and Thursday, it's like, you got the maximum time until Wednesday again. But I, that more than any elevated my 100 free.
Yeah. Favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday? Probably Halloween.
That's cool.
It's low key enough, and
are you like Rowdy? Will you get some crazy costumes going?
I wore a dress one year. That was pretty fun. As a teacher, the kids. I remember going to school with my boys in the back seat, and I remember Nate said, "Dad, you really going to get out of the car looking like that? Now's your last chance." But away I went.
Yeah. Okay. In closing, there's only a few people in the world who've been through what Caleb Dressel's about to go to. You and Michael Phelps and a handful of others. Caleb's going into Tokyo 21. A lot of expectation, a lot of pressure. Obviously Michael handled it well in 2008 and came out with his 8 golds and 8 world records. What would you say to someone like Caleb, but any swimmer who's trying to get ready for the biggest meet of their life? And I remember a quote from Jack Roach saying, how do you make the biggest meet of your life the most enjoyable meet of your life? To me, that's a great question, a great challenge. But any advice on performance like that?
I would encourage him to have a security team so that he can move around without getting hassled. I think that's really important for him to be able to have the protection to concentrate on what he needs to concentrate on when he's there. And then the other thing, and we sort of touched on it earlier, is no matter what you do, there's always going to be some people out there who are going to criticize you, who are going to think it's not enough, or you could have done better, or you took away somebody else's opportunity. There's always a cynic out there. And so, and Caleb and multiple event competitors are going to face that. And in the end, it just comes down to doing your best and being honest and sincere, being a good sportsman, and just getting out there and racing. And I used to concentrate on 2 things when it would get tough. One is that my dog was going to lick my face when I come home. I mean, a dog doesn't care about the Olympics, right? It's just happy to see me. So to have somebody like that who just unconditional love, that was important. And my mom really instilled in me the value of good sportsmanship. And so that was the other thing. Win, lose, or draw, I'm going to be a class act.
Yeah. Well, you definitely were that. And I remember watching all your post-race interviews, reading all your articles. And I just thought you always said the right thing. You always said it with a smile. You always showed good sportsmanship, celebrating the other people around you and congratulating them. And you've been an ultimate swimmer to me for these many years. So thank you for your example and your career, and now how you're giving back. And so you're a true ultimate swimmer, and thanks for being on the show. And I can't wait to see you around a pool soon.
Thanks for the kind words, Josh. I'm not sure I deserve all. I tried.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. We'll see you soon.
Okay, Josh.
I want to take a moment to tell you about my favorite swim cap, the Hammerhead Swim Cap. It's the safest, fastest, longest lasting, most comfortable swim cap in the world. Its one-of-a-kind patented honeycomb shock-absorbing technology will prevent concussions. And the Hammerhead cap has no wrinkles to ensure top speed with the least resistance. And it's super comfortable. That's easy to get on and easy to get off, and it will never tear. This is the last cap you will ever need to buy. Safety and speed, all at hammerheadswimcaps.com.
Thank you for joining us on this Ultimate Swimmer podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from these Olympians and life champions and how certain habits and decisions help them on their journey, and they can help you too. If there is an ultimate swimmer from your team that you would like to nominate that we can recognize on our show, just email me at josh@joshdavis.com. That's josh@joshdavis.com. And tell us about how your ultimate swimmer is making a difference in your swimming community. And that's the goal. to make a difference and swim with purpose. Not only are you getting better, but you're helping those around you get better too. When you realize you were born for the water, born for greatness, and born to serve others, you are on your way to becoming an ultimate swimmer. I'm Josh Davis. Until next time, keep streamlining and keep smiling. See you around the pool soon.